if you don't think this is the book for you, think about this. The thing that Matt has received the most as a compliment about this book, Matt being the author, Matt Dinneman, is this is the book that got me into reading again.
Amazing.
So if you want to be a reader again, first of all, if you want to be a reader again, you're probably not the person listening to Shoulda Books.
I can't believe you're listening to this.
What are you doing here?
Hey, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Shoulda Books, the podcast about all the books you should have read by now. My name is Jonathan, and today I am here with actor, try guy, podcast host himself, whose studio we are actually in at this moment, Ryan W. Garcia.
It's me.
Ryan, it's great to have you in your own studio.
It's great to have me in the guest chair. As I was telling you earlier, I give the guest the better background, which I feel a little bit more like cinematic in this seat.
And you know, and you in the Patreon cold open, we were just talking about some of Ryan's voice work, some of the voices that he's done.
I'm not going to use any of them
he's
here.
He's not going to use any of them.
Because that's behind a paywall.
That's behind the paywall. But Ryan he has been in so many things. He was in Community. He was in The Lincoln Lawyer. He was in Big Nate. He's been, he does both live action and animated voice work, incredibly prolific advertisements, commercials. You can see him on the Try Guys doing things like getting a tattoo of one of his characters. And we're going to get a shot of it right here. If you're listening, go check it out on YouTube.
That's it. I'm using my pinky to point at Mr.
He's
Rosa.
using this Mr. Rosa from Big Nate. And you got this tattoo as part of a video.
It was worth so many points. I think it was 2,500 points.
Okay. What's like the exchange rate on those? Like,
look, we won that episode.
Well, hey,
let's spoil
anything. Do you have any other tattoos?
Yeah, I have another tattoo right here. It's a horseshoe. I got it at a wedding.
Oh,
as a flash tattoo at my friend's wedding in Vegas.
Wow.
They actually had a tattoo artist who was part of the wedding. So you could just go and sign up for any of these ones. And so my wife and I got matching tattoos. That was my first tattoo.
Wow. Okay.
And to this date, I have not paid for a tattau.
Really? Okay, that's like your thing. You get them.
I'll only get them.
You only get them for free.
That's
you
right.
heard it here, folks. If you,
I'll get a tattoo if you pay for it.
Any tattoo,
as long as we agree upon it.
Do you have any tattoos that you want that you would really like to get?
No, that's the tough thing is it's hard for me. Like I like both of these because they have stories attached to them.
Yeah.
And it's been so hard for me to think of something. I was like, if Ryan 10 years ago got a tattoo, I don't know if I'd still be into it.
Yeah.
So
I feel you. Like I have this one on my wrist that I got when I got it when I was 23, I think. And I certainly don't regret it, but I also I've thought of some other tattoos that I almost got afterwards, and then I'm glad I didn't get them because now 10 years later I feel differently, and I'm like, I'm really glad. It was all face stuff.
Never gonna wear a mask.
Yeah, exactly.
Back in 2016, that seemed okay.
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, masks off. That was what it said. But today we are talking here in your beautiful, and I do mean that, beautiful
Thank you so much.
Studio for your show, Big Theater Kid Energy. What's that about? What's Big Theater Kid Energy?
Big Theater Kid Energy is something I came up with because I got invited to go see a play. Because one of the marketing people at the Amundsen Theater in downtown LA is a fan of Try Guys. And so they were like, well, invite Ryan to come and see Anne Juliet. And when they did, I thought, oh my gosh, wow, this is incredible. I got to go and see a show, and now I can talk about it with people. And I really it's one of my biggest loves. It's the thing that drove me toward acting is my love of acting on stage. And I just think that it's maybe not thought of that LA is a really great theater town. I've done more theater here than anywhere in the world. And I've seen more theater here than anywhere in the world. And it's vibrant, it's incredible. And I don't think people take advantage of it in the way that they should. So I thought, I can use this newfound Try Guys fandom as a way to promote Los Angeles as a thriving theater town. So I created Big Theater Kid Energy, your least pretentious theater review podcast.
Hell yeah. And I was just on it.
You were just on it. We went and saw a show at the Mark Tabor Forum, which is right next to the Amundsen Theater.
Beautiful theater. Beautiful, like, patio. Like, patio's not really the right word. It doesn't really do it justice.
It's called the Music Center. Okay, and it's a block.
It's a city block.
It's got this big, like, fountain that starts on the ground that I'm sure in the summer is just going vibrantly. You can see City Hall straight down. It's like a gorgeous view of City Hall.
Yep.
It's a pretty special spot.
I was blown away at how beautiful it was. Next time you're doing jury duty in downtown Los Angeles, like I did last summer, make sure you check that out. And make sure that you check out Ryan's show, Big Theater Kid Energy. I'm on there talking about Primary Trust. Great. A
Pulitzer Prize-winning show by Ebony Booth, directed by Knud Adams, happening right now at the Mark Tabor Forum.
That's right. And but today on this podcast,
right? I'll stop talking about my podcast.
We'll talk about it a little bit. But for right now, we're talking about books.
Yes.
So you have brought 3 books that you think everyone should read.
Yes.
And I have brought you a book that I think you'll enjoy, and you will unbox it at the end of this episode. So watch to the end, everybody. Find out if this is something that Ryan thinks he'll enjoy. / there's a good chance that he's read it before.
That's so fun.
So
if it's an AA book, I have read it, and this is a little bit forward of you.
It's a little okay, we're gonna take a break. We're gonna take a break real quick. I'm curious if this is something that it's also like it's very thin.
It's so thin. That's what I'm noticing.
And that's what's so intriguing.
I'm very intrigued by it.
Yeah, Berenstain Bears?
It's almost like a
Yeah, that's what
it's. Berenstain.
It's Berenstain.
Berenstain.
Oh my god, this podcast is going to take a big left turn if we start talking about the Mandela
I also
effect.
thought that it could be a Blu-ray.
I brought you a book. It's a Blu-ray.
A book at all.
I got to do that at some point.
Ryan, you don't really know how to read, so I got you something that might be more up your alley.
It's like a book, but it's like you can watch it.
Cool.
It's like theater, but it's in a box.
But I got to have a Blu-ray player, huh?
Man, yeah, I need to get a Blu-ray player.
Yeah,
physical media. It's making a comeback.
Got to keep it.
I need to get on that. But speaking of physical media, books. 3 that you think everyone should read.
Yes.
Before we get into that, I know I just teased it, but before we get into that, what is your reading life like these days?
It's in spurts. It's up, it's down, it's in, it's out. Sometimes I go on big reading runs. There's been times of my life where one of the books is going to cover this, where I was really in search of some guidance, and some books helped me there. So I've kind of lived at times where I'm like and also like when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I had the Lord of the Rings 3-pack. That was one paperback of all 3 books.
Yep.
And I just threw that every time, and I know it's controversial, but it was part of my childhood. Every time a Harry Potter book came out that weekend, I would read it the entire thing in that weekend.
Yep.
And then now, it's a lot of them are biographies or they're nonfiction. But currently, I'm very deep into a fiction book that has a series that has hooked me. And I only heard about it maybe a month ago, and I'm already on book 3.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. What series is that?
I'm so glad you asked. The series is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Dinniman.
And this is the first book.
The first of my 3 books.
The first of your 3 books. That was a pretty good segue.
Thank you.
I gotta say, it was a pretty good segue.
We are in my studio.
We are in your studio. Yeah, I am. This is an away game for me.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Yeah. Okay. So Dungeon Crawler Carl.
Yes.
This is a book that is I see a lot about. I see a lot of people posting about it. I see it at bookstores. I'm not super familiar with what it is. So, and if anyone isn't familiar, what is this book? What is this series about?
Yeah. So the type of book is called an RPG lit, right? Role-playing game literature.
Yeah.
In the sense that it's kind of like following our main character, Carl, through a video game.
Right.
But the table setting for the book is that the first chapter, you learn that the world, we're now dealing with the apocalypse. Every building, every structure, every car, anything, and maybe even umbrellas. Anyone who had a roof over them, those things at a certain moment all got flattened. And anyone who's in them immediately killed. So anybody who was outside has survived.
Okay.
And these staircases open up down into the dungeon. that they can make a choice to go into the dungeon, and the person who wins the dungeon can reclaim their world. Because it's an alien race that has taken over the world.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And they basically go down into what becomes a TV show to entertain the universe as they go down through different levels of the dungeon. And through that, gaining power-ups, gaining different skills, and all of that being shown to them through a screen that they can access through their brain, which gives, and similarly to a video game. You know, where you can see all of your stats, you can see your potions, you can see the different outfits, you can call things up from your inventory into your hand. So you're following Carl and his cat, Princess Donut, as they attempt to traverse through the dungeons.
I see. Okay. I am so intrigued by this. What is the like prose style? When you're saying it's like an RPG, is it almost like giving like prompts of like you, like is written in like second person where it's saying like you are the person like
it
who
is Carl.
doing it?
You are through the point of view of Carl. So
gotcha.
Carl will say, it was pretty fucked up. But then I don't know if I can curse.
Don't swear on my podcast.
You're right. It's
no,
pretty.
I'm just kidding.
It's pretty up.
Yeah. Swear away, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, well, they swear in this book a lot.
Hell yeah.
Like he's always like, "What the shit? God damn it, donut!" So you're through the point of view of Carl, but then at times you'll also hear the system, like a different font will come up, and there'll be prompts from the system that you are reading. That he's either hearing over a loudspeaker or just hearing in his head or reading on his screen.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Is there an element to this where like there's any sort of problem solving on your part as the reader? Or is it more just like, this is like you're sitting and you're watching someone play a video game?
Yeah, it made me really understand Twitch in a big way. Because like this is like watching the best player and also like the riskiest player at a video game play the game.
Okay.
There is problem solving in the same way that there would be in like a detective book.
I see.
Where they're giving you breadcrumbs. Yeah. And also there's that, what I love about the book too is like this guy, Matt Dinneman, who wrote it, who also is apparently like one of the kindest people. My friend Maud Garrett just did the book tour with him as his personal interviewer.
Oh, wow.
Basically, as they toured with the book, because book 8 just came out.
Okay.
Of a 10-book series is what the total will be.
Wow. That's a lot of books.
And he plants things in the first one. It's like, well, you're going to learn about that on level 3, but I'm not going to get into that right now. It's too complicated. So as things are being explained to Carl, there's all these breadcrumbs being put in for what's coming up later. And if you pay attention, you can see things that seem innocuous being put into his inventory. And if you're paying attention, you're actually, the properties of that item would be helpful here if you were being creative.
Gotcha. Okay.
So in a sense, you're a detective right along with Carl.
There's an element of like you're figuring out like what's happening as the character's figuring out what's happening.
And it stays very fresh. I will say so far I'm on book 3, so there's a lot to go. But I'm never feeling like, okay, now we're plotting through or just like grinding through the levels. It keeps shifting and flipping itself on its head, and it almost it changes styles of video game or of world building as it goes through, because each of these levels are their own beasts entirely.
Okay, and you said, so you started this, what was it, like 3 months ago?
No. I heard about it like a month ago.
You heard about it a month ago, and you're already
And my friend lent me the book, and I was like, yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, AJ Mester, who also helped me with all of my lighting in here.
Did a great job.
Did a great job. That now I've torn through, because what I'm doing with what's crazy about this book is I do also audiobook a lot.
Okay.
The audiobook for this is out of this world. So right now I have the physical book and the audiobook. And when I get in my car, I just always stop at chapter breaks.
Oh, smart.
And I'll pick up at the next chapter in my car and listen to it.
Right. Okay.
And the voiceover artist who's doing it all, who we have to look up his name because I don't have it offhand.
I'll put it on the screen.
Great. This guy. Isn't he great? I love this guy. He's honestly very good. But he's like the dungeon crawler. Carl's like here. And he's like, come on, god damn it, Donut. And then Princess Donut talks like this. So she's saying, well, Carl, I don't want to wear that. I want to wear my tiara. So he goes full performance with it. And then I'll come home and I'll pick up the next chapter and read it.
Okay.
Which I love that, because one, if I'm just reading, I'm not pronouncing words correctly and in my brain. And then when I'm listening, I'm not fully retaining as much, because sometimes seeing the image of the word actually helps with the retention. So then I go back, I'm like, oh, that's how that word is spelled. And it ties in more into my memory.
It's a two-pronged approach.
Yes.
I'm kind of the same. Like I I've talked about this a lot on the show. Like I've come around to enjoying audiobooks a lot more than I used to, but I still find that I don't retain as well as I do when I read. I think I'm more of a visual learner. You know, good thing I'm not working in an audio format.
No, totally.
Yeah. So with this kind of two-pronged approach, are you finding yourself like camping out in your driveway, like trying to finish a chapter before, to get to that chapter break?
No, I'm more effective with chores around my house because to get to that chapter break, I'll put on headphones, walk in the house, and empty the dishwasher.
Okay,
until the
you
chapter
just keep
is
it
done.
going. Yeah. Honestly, like listening to a good audiobook while doing a lot of dishes is like it's like one of life's little joys.
Yeah, I love guys, I love a multitask.
Mm-hmm.
I love a multitask. And so being able, like one thing that I love about reading the book physically is I can't do anything else.
Right. It locks you in. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have to be present. I can't check my phone.
Yeah.
I can't do anything but be lost in the world of the book.
Right.
But I do also love the ability to put in headphones, and it actually helps me listen more if I'm doing a menial task.
Right. And now you pretty famously go to the gym. You're a gym guy.
I do like the gym.
Do you audiobook at the gym?
I can't.
Really? Okay.
I can't. I'm not retaining information.
Oh, okay.
I will listen to podcasts there.
Okay.
And I'll get, as long as it's, but the book, I just feel like I'll miss things. I'll take like a 3-minute break between sets.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, what's Princess Donut going to do now?
Right.
Mordecai, come on, help us.
And then someone's like, please get off the bench.
You don't know what's happening in Undercollar Carl. Back off.
Whoa, okay, all right. Hey, I'll go do the Stairmaster instead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So no, actually that's the one place I haven't really, I've kind of been avoiding using it. And instead I'll just catch up on my podcast listening there.
So are you a video game person?
I am a video game person.
Okay. So what sort of video games do you generally like to play?
I also really like an open world format. Like everyone loves the Zelda games, especially the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. Those are both incredible. I'm also a huge Super Smash Brothers player, N64 all the way up to now on the Switch. Switch? That's right?
You are asking the wrong person.
Cool.
Yeah.
Whatever the Nintendo console is that I've completely blanked on this moment. But you know what that game is? Super Smash Brothers?
I've played it. I think I've played the like Nintendo 64 version. It's like they're fighting each other.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Different characters from the Nintendo universe.
Right.
Are fighting each other. You can play Mario, and then also Pokemon got brought into that. So you can be Pikachu versus Fox.
Yeah.
Star Fox.
It's the sort of game that I just like. My memories are just like my brother just like creaming me in it. And so it's like it's not my favorite of the Nintendo world. I was much better at Mario Kart.
And the new Mario Kart is also great, and I think also an equalizer. My wife is very good at it, so we like to play that together. And then also I like to play it over Wi-Fi with my sister and her husband way out in Atlanta. So it's like a cool way to connect.
Stay together. Yeah.
Yes. And then also like a Spider-Man game. I love one of those just like story. I like where I'm, I like getting lost in stories.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
And the ability to be like Spider-Man.
Right.
And we're right now in my studio that I also have a projector and screen right there. So sometimes I'll play the video game right there. So it's like 120 inches of me swinging through New York City.
I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge video game person, but like that sounds cool.
Yeah. Getting fully immersed.
Yeah, I guess that's something I'm curious about. Like with this book that is kind of like a literary adaptation in a way of the genre of video games. Like what itch is that scratching that playing a video game also scratches?
Yeah. I do think there's a part of me that, and I think it also scratches an itch for me as a human, is like leveling up at certain things. Like even, for instance, I keep coming back to it, but this is only the second episode that I'm using this lighting for.
Right.
And this is a big level up.
Yeah.
But the things that I have accumulated, even let's use this room as an example. This is my voiceover booth. This is my office. This is my video game terminal. This is my movie theater. This is my self-tape studio. This is my podcast studio.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, it was also my gym. So over time, it started very basic.
Yeah.
And then I started to upgrade my microphone, upgrade my lights, upgrade my camera. And so there's something about video games where like you start with very little knowledge.
Yeah.
And you do very basic fights. And then as you go through, you gain more abilities and you gain more cool shit to be able to wield and actually have the knowledge to wield. Like anyone can shoot something on their iPhone. That's very easy. Shooting something on a DSLR, more complicated.
Right.
Then the next step, shooting something on like an actual film camera becomes even more complicated. So there's this idea of leveling up that I think I really connect to.
Why do you think you connect to that?
Because I think I get bored. I think I get bored with the same thing over and over. The one thing that I can do over and over is food. Like I just think of my body as a machine. Yeah. And so I can feed it as long as the same thing keeps feeding me that, then I'm good. But when it comes to like pickleball or something like that, I'm like, if I could master pickleball day one, I don't think I'd be as obsessed with pickleball. I think it's the fact that there's so many skills I still have to master. And so many different shots I have to add to my repertoire and sharpen in order to be good at it and level up enough to actually have fun against very good players. Right. That interests me. Yeah. And keeps me engaged.
And so this book kind of like, what does the leveling up look like in this series?
I think it really is that one, you're actually leveling up. So you start as a level 1.
Okay. And so it's like delineated in that way. Like it's okay.
Yeah. You're a Carl and you're a level 1. And then you also have to get, this is the messed up part about it, that Carl hates, but you also, if you get enough fans, they can buy you power-ups.
Interesting.
And so you're not only trying to do well and level up so that you can survive, you also want to level up in cool ways so that the fans are interested in watching you so that they can give you better power-ups so that you can survive.
Interesting.
So it's like built into the system there.
Yeah.
So you're witnessing him actually, and also you're getting more complex spells and abilities. So you're not just watching him punch all the time.
Right.
He's now, and there's also the book, and Matt is so fucked up that like the AI system that runs the dungeon that has all these different levels, it also develops a personality. And currently the AI that runs that, the personality has a huge foot fetish. And so it incentivizes Carl to not want shoes. Like it makes, if you wear this toe ring, your foot attack becomes this much stronger. If you wear shoes, you lose that enchantment.
Oh my God.
Also, if you paint your toenails and do this, you get an extra buff that adds extra power and protection to your bare feet. So it's like, and constantly incentivizing him to keep his little toesies out there for everyone to see them, which is like, it's just funny too, how messed up this universe is, and how I love that it also brings in that parallel to a lot of the reason that I am using social media. Is a way to build an audience there. One, because I want to provide people of something that they actually enjoy to see and to watch and to share with me and experience. But also, I want to have more followers so that a casting director and a producer who are making a TV show are more interested in bringing me on because I have a built-in audience. And I become more attractive as an actor. So it all kind of feeds itself. You know, the dungeon for me is my acting career.
Acting is a dungeon. That's the title of the show.
The title of show.
Well, I was gonna ask, like, you know, I something I'm always fascinated when you know, looking at a sci-fi book, and I guess this could technically be classified under sci-fi, is like what it has to say about our lives right now. I feel like you already kind of answered it a little bit, of just like so much of the infrastructure of our lives is like constantly, you know, incentivizing us to level up in some way, because leveling up usually makes someone else rich, you know. But what are some other ways that this book and this series have like commentary on today?
I think about like that front-facing version of yourself and how it's constantly being scrutinized by public at large. You know, for instance, people like going to a Coldplay concert and losing their job because they got stuck on the kiss cam. Everything is so public. And everything is so that it's part of not just what your public persona is, but it's part of your own economy. Like, are you hireable? Are you desirable? And it's all based on what this social media, either a version of yourself that you've curated, or an authentic version of you that happens to be out there, and also at what cost comes not participating in it. What happens if you choose to, like, I'm just going to not be on social media? That's great, probably for your brain and for your life, but will it affect your economy? If you're trying to have a job as an actor or as a producer of some kind. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah. I mean, because it's, you know, I'm curious how you kind of feel about that phenomenon, because like, you know, for me, I feel conflicted in a lot of ways, you know, because I agree with everything you're saying of like, you know, a social media presence like is necessary to do certain things within like the entertainment industry. But what is also is true is that like, you know, the more time you give to social media, generally, the less good you're gonna feel,
right?
And the more of a toll it's gonna take on your mental health. And so it feels like this constant like balancing act, juggle balancing of you know, juggling. Yeah, exactly. That, you know, on some days I feel bad about it. And then some days I feel like, actually, you know, I've got the balance right. Like, how do you feel kind of about the juggling thing?
The juggling thing of that's like the social media life.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, man, I feel weird about it. I feel weird about it because, you know, having joined the Try Guys has really been one of those uncomfortable things for me to go back to like discomfort.
Okay.
I'm so comfortable, and I've talked about this before, but I'm so comfortable in a role. You give me a character, and like nothing will make me uncomfortable.
Right.
I can do anything because I am shielded by the armor of character.
Yes.
It's not me.
Right.
It's this character I've built, and they can do anything.
Right.
But then when it comes to me, I'm like, okay, well, who am I? What is, I know who I am, I think, when you do any of us.
Right.
But what not only like what is authentic about me, but what is interesting and what is compelling in each thing that I'm doing. So when I'm thinking about social media, I'm like, okay, I have to be authentic, but also interesting, but also compelling, but also authentic. Like it just keeps circling back to those three, that triangle.
Yeah.
And it makes, and so that's why, but also, while it is something that makes me really uncomfortable, that's I think why I am geared toward it, because I think that's the next level of growth for me is
Leveling
like,
up.
how can I do all of that without the armor of character, without the armor of a preconceived story with bumpers that keep me creatively safe.
Yeah.
It's actually like anything is possible, which is very scary and but also a little enticing and intriguing. And so I've learned to actually like the discomfort of putting myself out there as a real Ryan Garcia and not Ryan Garcia is playing.
Right.
I don't know if that answered your question at all, but it's what I wanted to say.
Absolutely. No, I think you absolutely did. And and I you know, just want to say that I know exactly how you feel, and I feel very similar of just like, you know, I hiding behind that armor of acting is very enticing and something that I, you know, 100% agree with. And it's like, it's difficult to, or at least I find it difficult to like, you know, just be myself.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, with podcasting, it's interesting because you're spending so many hours on camera, and like you like I don't know, I'm very hard on myself. Which, you know, is not the most productive thing, but like, you know, I find it just an interesting challenge of like doing less.
Yeah.
And just being like, it's okay. It's okay. You don't have to like, you know, try too hard to be funny. You don't have to try too hard to be interesting. Like, it's okay. Cause that's my instinct is like, I need to perform. I need to like be, you know, but it's like, that it's such an interesting and fulfilling challenge, I think, to try to lean into that.
And the thing I'm trying to bring into like this level of performance is like what I love in acting is when mistakes happen and you roll with them.
Yeah.
And I'm such a perfectionist that took a long time to start to like, oh, I want that. I actually want mistakes to happen. I actually want not only to surprise, let's say, my scene partner, but I also would like to surprise myself. I didn't expect that to happen. Wow, how cool that I created enough space and trust in myself that I allowed something real and honest that I didn't expect to actually come out of my body. Yeah. That I want that same thing in Ryan Garcia land on either a, you know, personality type video with the Try Guys or in my podcast. That I might say something, and currently this is not a live show, so I'm protected by the edit. So really, I can do anything.
Yeah.
I can say anything. And as long as when it's the podcast, I'm controlling the edit.
Yeah.
When it's Try Guys, I know that they're going to take care of me too, because they want the best product and they want to make sure everyone looks their best.
Right.
So it's like, it's just knowing that like, it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Like, take a risk, make a mistake, fail, and then don't apologize for the failure, but actually fold the failure in as like, now that's part of the reality.
Yeah. Before we move on from this book, what would you say to someone who says, I don't really like video games. That doesn't sound like a book for me. How would you pitch this book to them?
I don't think this is a video game book. And I will say a lot of the people that now I've noticed, like, there's such a massive fandom for this book. I think that most of the people that love this book have never played a video game in their life. I think that this is really, the reason that you should read this book is because the tone is incredible. The main characters are so good and so funny, and the storytelling is just like, it sucks you in. And those chapters are short, and it, like, at the beginning, and it just makes you feel like a really so many people. Here's the thing I will say: if you don't think this is the book for you, think about this. The thing that Matt has received the most as a compliment about this book, Matt being the author, Matt Dinneman, is this is the book that got me into reading again.
Amazing.
So if you want to be a reader again, first of all, if you want to be a reader again, you're probably not the person listening to Shoulda Books.
I can't believe you're listening to this.
What are you doing here?
Hey, we're glad you're here.
Good for you.
Stay a while.
That's a big step. A big step. I'm proud of you. And if you're taking your first step into it, try Matt Dinneman's Dungeon Crawler Carl, because it's a great in to become a reader again.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with Ryan's next book that he thinks you should read. Okay, welcome back. I just spilled a tiny little bit of water on myself, but it's probably out of frame. So, I probably didn't need to call it out. But I just felt like, in the spirit of our conversation about just being honest and open. And,
fold it in, fold the failure in.
Fold the failure in.
You're wet as a sponge in the bottom of a sink, and it's all we can focus on.
That's all we can, and that's what the show's about now. But what the show's really about is the next book that you think everyone should read. What book is that?
If you have not read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, then what are you doing? Stop right now.
All right. Okay.
And go. I have a copy. I'll give it to you. It's actually probably the book that I've gifted the most.
Is it? Okay.
To people is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
I've never read it. It's
really?
one of those books that, like, maybe I'll do it as like a book club episode for this show at some point, because it is one of those books that is just so ubiquitous, and it clearly has like touched so many people's lives.
Yes.
How did it touch your life?
It touched my life in like a massive way. I went through. So when I first moved to LA. I was very naive, very just open-eyed, big heart. I had a big breakup that happened in my life. And then I got asked to go and perform at this theater, the Hangar Theater in Ithaca, New York. And it kind of saved me because LA felt unsafe to me now. I didn't know anybody. And so I went back out to New York, and I was in Ithaca doing Men of La Mancha, as well as teaching kids theater, and doing a little show called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, where I played the mouse, who was a puppet that I manipulated.
Oh, wow.
And during that time, I read 3 books. I read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And that was my first time reading The Alchemist. I've read it multiple times since. And it gave me hope. It gave me direction. It is this story where you're following this sheep herder as he goes through an incredible journey through the Middle East and meets the alchemist, and his journey to grow into the next version of himself, and take big risks to make his life bigger. And it was a lesson that I needed in that moment. I had the opportunity in that moment of the big breakup in a new city to make my life very small, especially since Los Angeles can be a very isolating place.
Definitely.
Or I could make the choice to put myself out there and take the risk to expand my life rather than close it off.
So what format does this story take? Is it written just like a novel?
It is written like a novel where you're following this sheep herder.
Okay, gotcha. And
it's been a while since I've read it, so I'm very much living in like the generalization, and there's images and parts of the story that still live with me and will forever because I've read it so many times. And I've read other ones of Paulo Coelho's books, and they're good, but none as soul-capturing as The Alchemist.
Well, something that comes up on the show a lot is people will come on and they'll bring a book that has meant a lot to them, but they haven't read it in a long time. And what often happens, is certainly the case for me, is that like the details become a little fuzzy, but what doesn't fade is like how it made you feel.
Yeah,
and it also sounds like this is the book that met you at the right time.
Yeah.
What made you decide to read it? Did someone hand it to you? Did you like, was it something that had been on your mind and then you were like, you know what, now feels like the right time? Like, how did it come into your life at that exact right time?
I think my friend Nick Walker gave me The Prophet.
Okay.
I was in Man of La Mancha with him. And we made this mistake, by the way, Nick Walker and I. We had done Rent the year before at the Hangar Theater in Ithaca. And then we were both in Man of La Mancha. And we said, oh, we'd love to room together. And they thought we meant by that we'd like to be in the same room because we're lovers. What we meant was that we'd like to be in like the same apartment.
I see. Okay.
And be like roommates.
Yeah.
So instead they put us in the same bedroom.
Okay. One bed.
It was actually 2 beds, thank goodness. But I think in one of those like dorm rooms where you could push the beds together. It was on Ithaca College campus. So it was so we were like, this is not okay. Well, actually, I loved it. Nick said it was not okay.
Yeah, you're like, sleepover every night. It's great.
You know that's how it was, Nick. And he knew I was going through a moment. And so he gave me The Prophet. And I think when I was maybe in a bookstore, I just saw The Alchemist.
Okay.
And there was something about it. And I think I may have also reached out to other people because after getting that book from Nick, I was like, what else should I read?
Yeah, okay.
Because this actually was really helpful.
Right, okay.
And someone maybe suggested The Alchemist at the bookstore, or I saw it in a self-help section and it called to me, but it was definitely one that like just exists in 2010, the summer of 2010 in Ithaca, New York for me.
A time and a place.
Time and a place where I didn't have a car, so I was walking all over.
Oh, wow.
I was walking and reading all around Ithaca, and it really felt just like bohemian. I was an artist. I was acting in theater and teaching kids theater. Like everything just felt very much in line.
Yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And there's like all the waterfalls, right? And,
Ithaca is gorgeous.
It is gorgeous.
And those gorges are littered with waterfalls. And at that point, there weren't as many fences up, so you could like jump these 50-foot jumps off of the path into a waterfall.
Oh my God.
It was a pretty spectacular time.
This is an indie movie.
This is an indie movie. And but the Ithaca, during the winter is a miserable, terrible, cold, snowy place.
Right.
But in the summer, it is a gorgeous haven with the Ithaca Commons downtown. You're just walking and there's no cars allowed. So it's just free. It's so just like people all know each other. I'm going up to people's apartments, having a cup of coffee, taking that mug right down onto the street and just walking from shop to shop with my mug. Like it's just, and reading that book in that area just made me feel like this is life is about experiencing, putting yourself out there.
What were some kind of concrete takeaways from this book that like helped you in this moment?
It's really about choices that you make.
Okay.
And the path set in front of you. And there's a moment where you have a path where you're making enough money as a sheep herder. You're having a comfortable life with the sheep that you have. Or you can make the choice there's a boat leaving today to a new land. And you can sell those sheep and get on that boat. And what is it that's going to drive you in one direction or the other? And what's the right choice for you in that moment? And listening to the signs around you. Yeah. For me, a lot of those signs, while they can be exterior, I think the exterior is actually a reflection of what's happening inside of you. If you see a sign, there's a moment where he's looking up and he's learning how to read hawks in the air. And by reading them, he knows that a massive sandstorm is coming. Okay. That's, I think, just a way that, like, if you're seeing signs around you of things that are attracting you to go somewhere, it's a reflection of what's happening inside, which is saying, I'm not happy here. Yeah. This is no longer working. I need something new. So that sign isn't actually exterior. It's your insides reflecting out onto that. So that's what I really gained from it. Is like when you're making these choices, listen. Yeah. When you're making these choices, listen to what's happening outside because it's really your insides trying to reach out. Yeah.
What are some examples in the time since you've read this book where you've seen signs like that and taken and gotten on the show?
Yeah. I mean, one is making this podcast. One is making this podcast. The Big Theater Kid Energy podcast started as Jared and Kwesi saying, "Hey, you should look into merchandising." And I'm like, "Well, who am I? I guess I'm the theater kid." And I was like, again, it was in the same vein of like, how do I be me in these Try Guys videos? Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, what's my lane? My lane is I'm the theater kid. I guess I got that big theater kid energy. I'm a lot of energy. So I'm like, big theater kid energy kind of matches me. And then I got invited to a show and I thought, big theater kid energy isn't merchandise. It is, but it's also, and it's not just my lane in a group, right? It is, but it's also like a thing I can create and sink my teeth into. Yeah, and then starting to do it, I was like, I love this.
Mm.
I'm so glad I've now built this. And just today, I was actually going back and like going over some old episodes, and I was reflecting on like, wow, I've made 35 episodes.
Damn.
Like that's since September.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's crazy that now I just have this. And that's the other part of The Alchemist. There's times where it's like he camps at this little tea shop for a while. And there's so much time it takes, and he gets a job there. And there's all this time that he takes to improve this tea shop.
Mm-hmm.
And then once it's improved to the point that like he could make a very good living staying there, but that's not what his journey is.
Right.
So he needs to cash out and leave. And the guy who runs it's like, why would you do that? We've just made something so great here. So it's taking the time to really improve upon something. But then once it's at its place where you've gotten what you need out of it, to know when to move on.
Yeah. Have there been examples of that situation for you where like you were in a good spot, but you were like, you know what? I think there's something better, and you took that leap. What were some of those?
For me,
examples?
it's I'm an acting teacher and an acting coach.
Yeah,
and I also tape actors on auditions. That's where like I coach a lot, and so they'll come in here and I'll tape them. And right before the pandemic happened, I was all hours of the day. I was teaching 2 classes a week and then coaching 3-4 people a day throughout the week and sometimes on weekends. And that was all of my time. And so I was getting a lot of coaching clients, but I wasn't doing a lot of acting. And when the pandemic hit and that all stopped,
right,
I had this realization of like, whoa, what am I chasing? And do I want to be a professional teacher forever? And is that my goal? If it is, I'm on the right path.
Right.
But if my goal is to be an actor, then I'm putting all my eggs in the wrong basket right now. And I need to be okay with like not needing to bulk up my savings so much with this money from coaching, and be okay to like live on some of that money. And I still coach, but I do it much less. I still teach, but I just teach 1 class, you know, and I devote that time now to other endeavors, which are like, let me go be a part of a reading. Let me write a short film. Let me do a thing that's like now massaging the acting part of my life and leave this other thing that I put all of my time toward behind me.
You mentioned that you've read this book multiple times.
Yeah, 4 or 5, maybe 5 times.
What are some things that you realized on subsequent readings that you maybe didn't get the first or second time you read it?
I think that aspect that I already talked about is like the reading of the external signs.
Yeah.
At first I thought, oh, that's magic. What I thought was like, oh, what's happening here is he's witnessing the magic of the world around him. I need to see the magic of the world around me, which was true for me in that moment.
Yeah.
But then it became, oh, it's not about seeing the magic around the world. It's knowing that when I'm seeing that magic, it's because I'm magic.
Yeah.
You know, I'm actually able to see what's beautiful about it because of my perspective. And so it's about shifting that. If my perspective starts to get really dark about the world around me, then I know it's about time to crack open The Alchemist again. To remember that like, oh, I'm getting dark.
Yeah.
I'm not able to see the magic. All those things do exist there, but it's about perspective.
Right. Well, that's such a beautiful idea too, of like a book as this almost like totem that you can use to like recenter yourself.
Yes.
Of like, yeah, it feels like I'm losing, you know, the vision's getting blurry. Like, let me return to this thing. Like, that's so cool. That really, I mean, I've already wanted to read this book for a while, but like that specifically is something that makes me really want to check this book out.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that there's so much truth in that. When we look out into the world, so much of what we're seeing is just us.
Yeah.
You know, like we project so much, you know, and I think that the human tendency to find patterns in things, you know, it's the same way we see a face in the moon.
Right.
It's like we look for patterns, you know, and I think that there's so much wisdom in being aware that like the patterns you're seeing in the world are not objective patterns.
Right.
They are subjective. They are what you are bringing to it. And so I think that's a really interesting way to kind of reframe and like look at like, okay, what am I seeing in the world? Like, am I looking out and I'm just seeing, you know, despair and, you know, impending doom and stuff like that? It's like, because I think that, you know, something I certainly struggle with is like looking to the future and not getting depressed and like freaked out and stuff. And, you know, and that's not to deny that like bad shit's not happening. We talked a little bit about this on your episode of Big Theater Kid Energy, which you can check out right now. But I think it's important to remember that like, you know, the way that you are interpreting the data that's being presented to you, you have control over like what that operating system is going to be and how it's going to be interpreting it. You know? And so like, if you are looking out and you are seeing doom and you are seeing gloom and you are seeing despair and hopelessness, like look within and ask yourself, like, why is that what I'm seeing in this pattern and not seeing like opportunities for hope?
Totally.
You know, because you mentioned that, like, you know, you read this book at a very dark time, but it gave you hope.
Yeah.
Is that kind of like how it gave you hope? Or are there other ways that it gave you hope?
It was that. It was being around nature. It was that reminder.
Yeah.
And that thing I remind myself too. It's like when I'm feeling down, like literally touch grass means so much to me.
Yeah.
Because being in Ithaca and not without a car was about being in nature all the time. And so reading that book also, whenever I read it, I'm reminded of that, of being in that situation. There's also a thing in it about like the things you think you're going after are not necessarily that, and you'll be surprised by the outcomes that are there if you stick to it. Like thinking that like I'm going to meet the alchemist and he's going to be this like magician. And then you realize, oh no, he's just someone who's in tune with the universe. Like that's what the magic is. Or thinking like I'm going to get this great reward and then having everything stolen from you. And then actually witnessing that like that wasn't the reward. The gold wasn't the reward. It was the experience and you know, the journey is what it's all about rather than the destination.
Yeah.
You know, there's aspects of that I think always come out for me.
How would you pitch this book to someone who says, it sounds a little too woo-woo, a little too kind of new agey? I don't really fuck with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like me. How would you pitch this book to them?
I would say that, look, you take from this book whatever you want. If you want a woo-woo book, then you can look at it like it's the passages of a woo-woo book. If you want to take it just as like an interesting story about this sheep herder who wants to meet this alchemist who can actually create potions, and he can make, what is this thing, the alchemist can make gold out of coal or whatever it is. Maybe not coal, but something. You know, like he can make
Philosopher's Stone.
Lead
to gold.
Like you can live forever.
Yeah, right.
That it can just read this book just to follow the story of this sheep herder. And it's a great, well-told story. If there's things in there that you attach to along the way, cool. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Just enjoy this cool story. It's a fun guy. He's just got some sheep and he wants to go on a trip. So enjoy the trip.
Well, we're going to go on a very quick trip to advertising land. And then we'll be back with Ryan's third and final book that he thinks everyone should read. Welcome back, everyone. We are here for Ryan's third. I don't know why I got NPR voice all of a sudden.
No, I do. It's interesting you say that because my thought right now was, Jonathan, quick voice check-in. How is your voice feeling after doing back-to-back?
You know what? It's actually feeling pretty good.
That's great.
It's feeling pretty good. I think that part of it was that you, in the break between recording the episode of your podcast and the episode of my podcast, you very graciously offered me a protein shake.
Yes, it coated your vocal cords.
And it kind of coated my vocal cords. And maybe that was your plan all along. Who can say? But
there is this incredible stuff. It's called Pepacoa.
Oh.
And it is a loquat and honey cough syrup, basically.
Okay.
With all these other herbs and things in it. It's Chinese, and it's one that a lot of voiceover artists will use to coat their throat.
Interesting.
Put it in tea, drink it straight.
Okay.
If you have what's called an efforts job, where you're basically like in a video game, you got to do the no.
Yeah.
You got to do a bunch of those.
Okay.
You'll keep some of that on hand so you can just coat that throat and keep working.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah.
I'm also curious too. I mean, this is a completely tangent, but we were talking a little bit off mic about like training. I want to get more like vocal training.
Yeah.
And we could talk about this off mic, but like, do you have any good vocal training?
Yes, I do. I
like,
can tell you one right now. I mean, there's one that's kind of like one of the main ones out here in LA, Bob Korf. And his wife.
Okay.
And I just got back into my, proper placement. You want to like create basically relaxation all through the chest, the voice being supported from the diaphragm rather than tightening here.
Okay.
So it's deep breaths all the way down to the bottom. You're feeling actually pull from the bottom of the diaphragm when you take that breath in into the voice. Comes in there. So a lot of voice classes are actually working on your full body. Because it's the whole instrument.
Right.
And that's what's vibrating. And then it's about placement. Where are you putting that voice in the mask? Are you really bringing it forward? Are you pulling it back and talking from here? Are you tightening your, there's a lot of different aspects to it.
Man. And, that's, Unfortunately, not what the podcast is about.
Or fortunately, because some people fell asleep.
And welcome back, everybody. Okay, so the last book.
Yes.
Do you think everyone should read? What is it?
There is a musical out right now. And I really want to see that musical. But I feel like there was a little work I wanted to do before seeing it.
Okay.
The musical is The Outsiders.
The Outsiders, yes.
And it will be coming out here to LA. I believe it'll be at the Pantages next season.
Ooh,
and it is a book. It's based on a book that was also made into a movie. The book by S.E. Hinton, The Outsiders. One that you know, I think, very well.
I do know this book very well. It was the book of the month here at Shoulda Books back in, March. I think it was March. I'll check the tape on that. But I like this book a lot.
Yeah.
I like this book a lot. Why
do you like it so much?
I like it because it really captures what it's like to be that age.
Yeah.
In a way that so few things can. And I think that the main reason it does that is because the author was that age pretty much when she wrote it. She was 15 or so, when she wrote it. So it's like a primary source document of what it's like to be that age. I'm curious to hear why. I'm curious to hear why you like it. But if anyone hasn't seen those episodes or hasn't read the book or anything like that, what's this story about?
The story is about a bunch of outsiders. They're a bunch of kids from the wrong side of the tracks. They're the greasers. And it's kids just struggling to grow up. There's not a lot of parental figures in the picture, especially for our main character, whose older brother has taken on the role of father. And the middle brother is kind of like the hot boy who was too smart, is a mechanic now, does not go to school. And then our younger boy who doesn't. And what I like about it is everyone's playing to the height of their intelligence, which I think is the thing that makes it so realistic. I think sometimes when people are writing children or anybody younger, they write them young. They write them as dumb kids.
Yeah.
And these are kids who are ignorant because they haven't experienced life.
Right.
And so the things that happened are of the utmost importance because that's their entire world. That's the entire 15 years that our main character has experienced.
Right.
What's his name?
Ponyboy.
Thank you.
Ponyboy Curtis.
Ponyboy Curtis. And, Ponyboy is dealing with the trials and tribulations of being a kid, trying to get through school and feeling like his older brother hates him because his older brother's now become a parent and trying to fit in with these other rich kids from the other side of the street who literally want them dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
And how he is going to, I think the whole thing is really about surviving that age.
Yeah.
And I think why it works so well is because all of us feel, even if we're in a more affluent style of growing up or a more suburban style of growing up, the stakes of being 14, 15 still feel like it's going to be impossible to survive high school.
Yeah.
It's going to be but now we're seeing it through turned up stakes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's taking that premise of it's everything feels life and death when you're that age. But in this story, it actually is life and death.
Yes.
Life and death happens in this story.
Doesn't it?
How old were you when you read this book?
I was 39.
Okay.
I just read it for the first time.
Okay.
I think I saw the movie for the first time
a
couple years ago.
Gotcha. Okay.
So this is brand new for me.
Yeah. So what was it like, revisiting kind of that? What did this book bring up for you about that time of life after you're, not in it anymore?
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a lot of different places. So I didn't have the experience of what Ponyboy went through, which was the same family and friends for his entire life up until 15. For me, I moved when I was 8. I moved when I was 14. I moved again when I was, 8, 12, 14, and then went to college after that. And it was always to new time zones of the U.S.
Oh, wow.
So 2 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, 2 high schools.
Yeah.
But I constantly felt like an outsider. I constantly felt like, how am I going to find a way to fit in? So when he's trying to fit in with the girls at the drive-in movie, that was how do you broach that line with another kid your age or even a year older of being like, hey, I also exist,
right. Yeah.
So I went through that so much growing up that I think those are the things that really reflected back at me of like, yeah, how do I? And then also finding like the joy and love of small things. Like when they're in that church hiding out and they love the snacks that they get. Or they love like when they finally get a burger for the first time because who comes and saves them?
Dallas comes. Yeah, Dallas comes and
he's like, let's get you guys a milkshake or whatever it is. And like that, like, oh my gosh, a milkshake can mean so much or whatever I'm substituting that in for.
Yeah, no, I think that's, I certainly felt the same when I read it. And I read it for the first time for this podcast. So I also did not read it at the age that I think most people who read this book usually read it like for school.
Right.
And they're like the age that Pony Boy is.
I also didn't read anything I was assigned in school, almost ever. I think I read Of Mice and Men because it was short. I think other than that, like A Tale of Two Cities, I didn't read it, and then I bullshitted my way. I was smart enough to skate by, but dumb enough to think I'd actually get away with it. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
And I just didn't love reading because I think because I didn't like being told what to do. I'm very much a control freak.
Okay.
And I've tried to let that go over the years. To some failure and some success. But I think like someone telling me you have to read this made me upset. But now it's like, you should read this. Right. I'm like, I would love to know why you have that perspective.
Yeah.
I'd totally grown over that time. But just a little, I think that I really attuned with them because they're all like, fuck authority.
Right.
And I only said fuck authority in the sense of like, I'm not doing homework. I already know this math.
Yeah.
So that was my greaser.
That was your version of the greaser.
Test. Why would I do the homework?
I had I moved a lot growing up too, and I around the same. Let's see, I moved when I was 12. Well, I moved when I was 3, 12, and 16. And so
16's tough.
16's tough. I was homeschooled, so I didn't necessarily have the school didn't change.
Yeah. Right.
But it was difficult to make new friends, especially at that age, and kind of getting put in those situations. Like, what were some of your tactics that you used to try to like make that transition?
I would hang around. Well, one, band.
Okay, yeah.
Band was away, especially like in the middle school and high school shifts, because there you already have a built-in thing. You're like, oh, I have the saxophone group, so like I'll meet them and get to know them. Theater was another way. Like these groups and these clubs were a way for me to make friends. And the other thing was witnessing groups of friends that were already built and trying to understand their language and see what maybe was missing from the formula. I can be that part.
Interesting.
They don't have the weird guy they can make fun of. I can be the weird guy they can make fun of. They don't have the hyper competitive dude. I can be the hyper competitive dude. It really was great for me as an actor, and maybe not the best for me as a growing human being, because I didn't spend a lot of time trying to think, what does Ryan like? I spent a lot of time thinking, what do you like? And how can I make sure that you like me because I can align with what you like?
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was my playbook. It was just like, I think it made me very good at reading a room and then mirroring and just being like, okay, whatever you want, I can try. And it like sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't.
Which, side note, not a great thing for acting in one aspect, because if I'm so practiced at mirroring somebody else, then there's not going to be much of a dynamic scene happening. Like if I'm in a scene and you're doing something and I just start mirroring your actions in a way, then we have two of the same chemicals in a scene, and that's not going to create much of a reaction.
Right.
We actually want an acid and a base. We want two separate chemicals to create something dynamic and create conflict.
Well, I completely disagree with that, Ryan.
Okay, whatever you say, buddy. that was dynamic.
I do wonder. Like, I talked about this in the episode about this book of just like, I do have a feeling, a kind of a sense of loss of like, man, I wish that I had read this book when I was that age. I kind of feel the same way about Catcher in the Rye.
Right.
I talked about that book when Rainey Toll was on this podcast, and like I felt like I read that one too late. and just kind of found Holden a little bit annoying. What's interesting about The Outsiders is that like I read it quote unquote too late, but I don't find Ponyboy annoying. Like I really don't find him annoying at all.
You find him annoying?
I don't think so. But I'm just like comparing that to like another book that I quote unquote read too late. You know, and I think it's like I think that Ponyboy sounds like a kid for sure, and like some of the prose is like a little bit childish, but like that's what makes it work.
Yeah,
you know, it's like you wouldn't like it if it was more grown up. You know, I think you said when we first started talking about this book, you said a phrase that I hadn't really heard before, but I found very true. Is like writing to the level of everyone's intelligence.
Yeah, they're functioning at the height of their own intelligence.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. That's such an interesting concept. And I think that like just is one of the ingredients of great writing.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think one of the ingredients of like, for instance, I could bring it back to acting, but people I think sometimes like when you're playing a not smart character.
Yeah.
For instance, let's use, for example, Joey Fatone.
Sure. Yeah.
Joey is being played so well by Matt LeBlanc because Matt LeBlanc is playing to Joey's intelligence. He's not playing him dumb. Right. He's playing him as smart as Joey can be.
Right.
So like, I'm confident in knowing that this is true.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
If I'm playing a dumb guy, then it's like not realistic.
Yeah.
That's just not how humans exist.
Right. Because no one goes around being like, well, I'm a dumb guy.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's very endearing. If you did that all the time, I'd be like, that's so charming.
Yeah.
If Jonathan was just like, what can I say,
hey,
guys?
What can I say?
Dumb.
I'm just a dumb guy.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, interesting. Talking about tactics, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, everyone thinks that, and everyone is the protagonist of their own story.
Right.
You know, and everyone like feels, you know, justified to some extent or another in their behavior.
Right.
You know, one of my favorite short stories is by Jorge Luis Borges, butchered the pronunciation of his name. It's the story called The Aleph, and it's about this guy who he finds in his like basement. He finds a point which lets him see the entire universe. And so it's a concept like in theoretical physics of like an Aleph is a you know a vantage point that lets you like see the entire thing. So anyway, he's able to look and see the entire universe, and he's able to, and he lists all of these things. I mean, he's you know, he's listing, it's kind of like the Tears and Rain speech from Blade Runner, where he's like listing all of these incredible things that he's seen. And he wraps up this speech by like saying, I was filled with infinite wonder and infinite pity. And like, bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, I almost got a tattoo of the Hebrew letter Aleph, which is, you know, as to represent that story. Did not end up getting the tattoo, probably for the best, because I'm like, I don't want to have to tell this story every single time. Right. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, have you ever read any Borges? And then
no, I'm not very smart.
You know,
but,
hey, look, I'm just a dumb guy. But I just was always, it always stuck with me, just that like infinite wonder, infinite pity. You know, and I think that like, if you know a person completely, you can understand why they're doing what they're doing, you know? And I think that that's something that The Outsiders, it's truly amazing that S.E. Hinton was able to have the perspective and the empathy that she does, specifically with the older brother, the eldest brother with Derry.
Totally.
Of just like, you know, Ponyboy comes to understand that like his brother really does love him and he loves him very deeply. And he's like, his brother is scared and hurting and like underwater and trying to like figure out how to keep this family together, you know, like to be able to have that awareness and that empathy is truly amazing. I think one of the best parts of this book.
Totally. One of the worst parts of this book is that there's a Derry and there's a Dallas.
Oh my God. Yeah. I've talked about this. It's honestly, terrible.
You can't have the first 2 letters be the same and then be followed by 2 consecutive letters.
Yep.
Like, that's not allowed.
And then a Y, yeah.
That's not, Darian Dally.
No, sorry, yeah.
But it was Darian Dallas, right? But still.
Darian Dallas, yeah.
But I think Dallas might have went by Dally sometimes.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. That's what it was. It's like he goes by Dally sometimes.
Yeah.
Dally and Dary.
Because they would be like, they shorten it. Like, you're not allowed to do that. Because if I'm talking to you, if we're just having a conversation, Dary and Dally don't sound the same.
Right.
But in writing, Dary and Dally are the same thing.
Yep. Yeah.
And so I think I don't care how old you are.
Yeah.
Have an array of different names that are nothing like each other for the characters of your book.
Yeah.
I had a friend who, whenever she read a Shakespeare, she would always bring out a bunch of little like stuffed animals. And she would assign each of the stuffed animals one of the characters because Shakespeare shows are so dense that she would need to be like, okay, so there's Caesar and here's Cassius and there's Brutus.
Oh, that's really
and
fun.
That way I'll know.
That's what,
you know, who's who. And I can actually imbue these with the character traits so that way I'm not having to be like, oh yeah, what's Cassius like? Oh, it's a little snake.
Right. And then you get to have a little kind of puppet theater.
Yes.
And get to do fun voices.
So I needed a dairy, which I think would be a cow. Yeah. And I needed a Dallas, which I think would be a horse.
Yeah.
And so I would need those in front of me, those Beanie Babies, in order to keep them straight. Because boy, did I get lost.
It really did. And
they'd be like, Dallas. I'm like, his brother? Why is his brother doing?
Yeah.
Oh, Dallas is the other guy. Dang it.
Yeah. You said you saw the movie before you read the book. What do you think of the movie?
I liked it a lot. I thought it was great.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. I don't think I have a lot to say about the movie.
Okay.
Because I feel like I saw it during the pandemic, and that was kind of a blur of a time. So, because I was watching a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it blurred into many different things that I saw. But I remember like loving the feel of it. It like felt very like a dark West Side Story with no singing, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I didn't love the movie.
Great. Maybe that's why it didn't attach to my brain. Maybe I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to say about it, so maybe it just didn't quite connect. But I've heard that the musical is incredible.
That's what I've heard. I've heard the musical is incredible. I did a Patreon bonus episode about the movie, the Outsiders movie, after we did the book, which is available for free on this RSS feed / YouTube channel, so check it out. But I talk a little bit about there of like why the movie didn't quite hit for me.
Right.
And I think part of it is because I love the book so much.
Sure.
So, and I just didn't like, for instance, some of the casting and some of
Josh
of the choices.
Brolin plays Derry in that, no?
No.
Damn it, what am I thinking of? Maybe I never
Patrick
saw this.
Swayze plays
Maybe I never
Derry.
saw this movie.
Yeah.
Is Josh Brolin in this movie?
No.
Wow.
No.
Maybe I'm thinking, what am I thinking of? What's the one where
Goonies.
Josh Brolin does? Yeah. Am I thinking of the Goonies? I did see the Goonies.
The Goonies is great.
I thought the Goonies was actually the Outsiders in movie form.
It's when the they're trying to find the treasure. Yeah.
You guys!
Yeah. Oh man. But yeah, I'm so fascinated with Francis Ford Coppola's like filmography because it's so hit or miss.
Yeah.
Like he's got some incredible movies and then he's got some. Yeah,
he's someone who doesn't listen to outside involvement.
It's true,
and that can be great, and then also can be to someone's detriment. Like George Lucas, he benefited a lot from listening to outside producers and advice and having people push back against it. When people didn't push back, we got 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
And some people love those because that's their childhood.
Right.
But I'm sorry, watch those again. What happened to Padme? Padme just went from being like this strong queen senator and it just being like, I miss you, Annie.
Yeah.
To like a nothing character. Where the third one, what is this character development? She loses power as we go along. Like I think that Francis Ford Coppola could have done with a little bit of pushback from people and accepting it.
Yeah, it is always interesting when you like, because I think as an artist, it's natural to be like, I don't want any restrictions. I don't want anyone like pushing back on me. I want total artistic freedom and like. Oftentimes that's the worst thing that happens to people's careers because they'll make an amazing first movie, get kind of the blank check. I mean, there's a whole podcast, the Blank Check podcast, about this phenomenon. So it's well-trod territory.
Yeah,
but
I'm not like that. I crave the collaboration.
You're like, please,
like,
give
I'm
me.
Like, I want pushback because I think pressure is how you make diamonds, right? Like you need that push from people in order to create the good thing. Like question it, ask about it. Let's make it better together.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone who says, The Outsiders, isn't that something you read in like middle school? Why would I want to read that?
Because the musical's coming out. There's a musical out now. You're going to go see the musical without any context? Yeah. What are you, crazy? It's a fun, easy, fast read. Read it, then you'll go into the musical knowing what you're actually listening to. It's like people who want to go see Hamilton without ever having heard it once before. Are you crazy? That show is so fast. You will never be able to keep up. Outsiders, there's a book. There is source material that is very good. Read the book so you can see the musical and actually enjoy your time.
Well, speaking of time, we have come to the end of this episode, but it is now time.
What am I going to do with all this energy now?
Well, you know what you can do is you can do it to attack.
Yes!
You can attack the wrapping paper of the book that I brought you. So, no one has ever put this much effort into unwrapping. I gotta say, this is Shoulda Books history here in the beautiful Big Theater Kid Energy Studios.
Just gonna tear this. I don't care about
he's hamming up a little bit,
paper.
folks. I mean, it's
ham.
It's Scotch
this is
tape.
authentic.
Yeah, it's Scotch tape and brown
you really
paper.
locked this. I didn't make one tear.
Wow, are you trying to save the wrapping paper? Ooh.
I already saw Samuel French.
Okay,
so I know it's a play.
It is indeed a play, and I'm very curious if you've read it or if you've seen it or if you're familiar with it at any sort of way. It is.
I know Teresa Rebeck. And this is Our House by Teresa Rebeck, a Samuel French original.
Have you read or seen this play?
No.
Awesome.
I have not, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, so it's Teresa Rebeck. She's probably most famous for Spike Heels, a bunch of other plays as well. But this play is I did a monologue from it for a class one time, and I really liked it. I find it to be kind of a transitionary fossil of like the transition from old media to like social media, because it's about television. It's about like how narratives in culture are like shaped and formed, and how people form parasocial relationships with like celebrities.
Wow.
And so it's a very it's a very razor sharp kind of satire. It was written in like I think 2009 or so. So it's like right in that era where like, Facebook's around, but it hasn't really, like, social media hasn't really become the dominant, cultural force. It's also kind of a fun callback to the short film that we did together, Risk Falling. In a way that there has to do with a live interview that happens within it. So,
and in the premiere, the character of Merv was played by Jeremy Strong.
A very
controversial figure. Comes to the acting world. He's very, very talented. And I think I remember in an interview him talking about having done this. So I'm excited to read this. It's so on point. It's very thought out. Very smart. It's, what's this at the end? Also, here's the other one she's done.
I thought you were reading the ending. I was like, wow, in real time, we're finding out how you read. We buried the lead.
Every play I read,
turns out
I just read the last line.
Last line. Am I in it?
The first thing I do whenever I get a play is I count how many lines I get to say.
How many lines do I have?
Yeah. Like, well, that's not quite as many as Vince, but I guess Merv's a good character. Yeah. I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
Well, of course. And thank you for being here. Where can the people find you? What do you have to plug?
Yes. If you want to find me, go check out @MuchosGarcias on Instagram and go follow Big Theater Kid Energy everywhere. It's theater, R-E, and because I like that better. All over YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and check out my podcast. I just did a great podcast with Jonathan Kirk about a show happening right now at the Mark Tipper Forum. I don't know when this comes out. It might still be happening right now. Called Primary Trust. That was such a fun episode to do. And so that's the place it's got. And also check out Second Try. I mean, a lot of Try Guys stuff. It's such a blast. It's such a wild new format for me to still be learning and getting comfortable with. But that's the places that I'll be. Yeah. Also watch Krapopolis on Fox. I'm in that.
Oh yeah.
I play Timothy the Incredible. I'm constantly trying to conquer.
Timothy the Incredible. Well, thank you, Ryan, for being here. Thank you all for watching and for listening. And as always, keep reading.